Let's get some analysis of the Obamacare repeal effort and the NFL showdown as well from senior political correspondent Brit Hume. Good evening, Brit.
Hi, Brit.
Let's start with what Mike talked about there, the CBO, these numbers, but Susan Collins saying she's a definite no. If you add Rand Paul and he holds the line, if you say John McCain's going to stick with what he has, Susan Collins would be the vote that killed.
Yeah, that's the end of it. I mean, this particular effort would go down, and the Congressional Budget Office's its preliminary estimate on this is really kind of irrelevant to that. Those estimates have, not been very, very close to accurate in the past. And in this case, when responsibility for dispensing the funds and managing the program is being devolved to the states and their governors, it's almost impossible to predict with any accuracy what kinds of policies and what kinds of effects they would have. So that doesn't really amount to much. In the end, it came down to whether they could pull together the votes, and it looks like they can't, which means that when the end of this month rolls around, they'll no longer be able to do it with 51 votes, which they couldn't get, and now they need 60. So for this year, it looks like this is all she wrote on this issue for now.
Which doesn't bode well for getting other big things done like tax reform.
Possibly you're right, Brett, and a lot of people certainly agree with that if you can't get this, you can't get tax reform. I think it may be the other way, that having failed on this tax reform is the other big promise of equal magnitude and to many people even more important. I think the view within the Republican Party is at least as likely to be we cannot fail on that. And the divisions on it, at least in terms of the measure, are not as great as they seem to be on this. So I think the chances of tax reform are either unharmed or perhaps possibly even enhanced by the evident failure of this Obamacare repeal effort.
And next, the NFL showdown that we have, has taken so much oxygen out of this town and around the country.
Oh, my Lord.
It's been quite something to watch.
I got up this morning, Brett. I'm a lifelong Washington Redskins fan. I grew up here, and I couldn't wait to read the story about the Skins' unexpectedly convincing win last night against the Oakland Raiders. And the Redskins story was relegated to the bottom of the sports page with the whole protest business all over the top of it. It has really consumed at least a lot of ink and a lot of airtime. I'm not sure, though, that to the average fan it's as important as they think. People may have an opinion about it. And I would also say this: the president, the consensus seems to be forming that the president put his foot in it again, and he shouldn't have done this, and he waded into a controversy that can't hurt him. My guess is that most fans probably agree with the president. Look at any stadium in the country on a Sunday when the national anthem is played. People's overwhelming majority stand, overwhelming majority hand over hearts. I suspect that was true yesterday, and it will be true next week, and that the players and their protest are out of phase with the public and not the other way around.
Sure.
And not the president.
But there were 6, players kneeling before the statement, right, and all the tweets, and 200 plus.
Yeah, and they were expressing solidarity, I guess, with their fellow players, but the overwhelming majority of players did not participate in this. So I think when you get down to there may be less there than seems to meet the eye.
Which is sometimes the case.
Yes.
Britt, thanks.
You bet.